Okay. So, hello everyone. So, just so that you're aware, we will be recording this webinar so that you can go back and review it. It will be posted early next week onto our website where we'll be sending you a link for it. So, I'm Ramona Gallagher, and I'm the managing director of the My Main Street program. And so, as part of the program, as you're all aware, you will all be receiving a market research report based on your specific area and your type of business. So, today's session, we have Environics Analytics, who is the organization that we use to help create these market research reports. And today's webinar is all about showing you the information that you're going to be getting in this market research and how you can apply it to your business in your local area. So the way that the session is set up today, it's going to be a presentation by Greg. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can apply it for your particular business, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So I'm just going to ask that during Greg's presentation, we're not going to stop his presentation, but if you do have a question, you can put it into the chat or into the questions area, and we will deal with it. And then Greg can go back over some of the stuff. And then we're going to end the session with the ability for you to ask particular questions about you and your business and your location and how you can apply things. So to start off, I'm going to introduce you to Greg Mortson from Environics Analytics, who is going to be doing the majority of the presentation today. So Greg, welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramona. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. I always get very excited when I'm introducing some of what we do, especially to smaller businesses who may not have the opportunity to use a lot of what we do. We go quite deep with other organizations, and I'll get into that. But I first want to let you know my name is Greg Mortson, so I'm an account manager here at Environics Analytics. So I manage a number of different municipalities and federal, provincial governments, public sector really, and a few other sectors. But I just make sure everybody gets value out of the data, the insights, and the services we provide. Really quick introduction to Environics Analytics. We first and foremost provide a lot of different data points about the Canadian population, all the way down to the postal code level. So it really is a way in which organizations and departments and public sector clients learn more about their residents or their constituencies or their service areas based on all this data that we can provide, over 30,000 different data points, all down at the postal code level. We also offer a lot of analytics. So we're not just a company that throws data over and says good luck. We really join you on your analytical journey, if you will, to make sure that you're using our data in a way that makes sense and that helps your business or your organization. And then finally, we do offer some software solutions as well that really take advantage of our best practices that we've developed over the years. So there's a lot that we do here. That's all I'm going to say about in terms of an introduction. Today, I really want to talk more, though, about your market research reports. So in collaboration with the Canadian Urban Institute, we've created these reports for you. What I'm going to do today is help you to understand how to interpret your report. I'm going to touch on some of the insights you can gain and how you might think about using this data and these insights. And Ramon is going to go a lot deeper in the latter half of the hour here that we have together. And we'll also get into questions as well. So I'll be walking through different sort of parts of the report. There's a lot in there. Once you get it, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. What I'm hoping I can equip you with are the tools that enable you to interpret all of the different sections of that report. You know your business best, obviously, and how these things might help you. But I'm going to help you interpret everything in order for you to really get at the insights and how those apply to your business. Okay. Okay. So really, why does data matter? I mean, this is a great opportunity, as I was saying earlier, that allows you to tap into this data that normally is reserved for some bigger organizations. Like, I think you'll be impressed with the amount of data that you have here at your fingertips. In a lot of cases, it's probably going to reinforce what you already know about a trade area and the people you serve within it. But hopefully, and this is the exciting part, there are some little nuggets that maybe you didn't know about your area, or maybe we go a bit deeper into some of the lifestyle characteristics, what they do on their leisure time, or what kind of events do they attend, what kind of media do they consume? Is it television, radio, internet, newspapers, magazines, social media? How do they spend their time in each of these media channels? And finally, we'll start getting into some values as well. We call it psychographic data or social values. What are those attitudes and thoughts that really drive people's behavior inside your trade area? So I'll touch on that as well. So very excited to be able to offer you this today to help you apply these insights to your business. So the first important concept when looking at your report is to understand who it's about. So what we did for each of your businesses is that we located it on the ground. So we took the address that applies to your business and we located it on a map on the ground, the point, rooftop point where your business is, and we created an area around it. Now we created an area in one of two ways. If your business was classified as rural by the CUI, we created a 15-minute drive time area around it. So we're capturing a bit of a larger area around your business. If your business was classified as more urban, then we created a 15-minute walk time around it. So a much smaller boundary around those urban areas, taking into account the density of the population around each of these two types of businesses. So the important part here is that all the report that you're going to see here is really based on the households and the population that live within each of these two different areas. So let's say your business was in a 15-minute walk time, like on the left here. This is the boundary that is created where every household within this boundary is able to walk to that business location in 15 minutes. So, and you'll see that on the right-hand side in a rural example with a bit of a larger area. So this process was done with each of your businesses to gain an understanding of the primary households and population in which you serve and you're hoping to attract. So that's the first important note here is who these reports are really about, and it's about the households and populations within these trade areas. So one of the sections of the report, and I'm going to go through a number of them here, but one of the foundational categories of data that businesses across Canada use is our demographic data. And this demographic data is based primarily on Statistics Canada census, but we use a whole host of other data sources in order to estimate it for the current year. So all the data that you're going to be seeing in this report is based on 2024 data. So it's a really great opportunity too. I mean, you could go to the census website and look at what a lot of this demographic information was for 2021. But what you're provided with is what it is for estimated to be for the current year. The demographic categories we have here is information about the population and households. You'll see an example of that in a moment. Housing types and income categories for households and population within the area, education and employment levels, as well as diversity. So you'll see all those different elements that describe the population and the households within your specific trade area. So the next really important concept here is indexes and how indexes are used within these reports. And this is probably as complicated as it gets, so it doesn't get too detailed in a lot of the methodologies behind this, but indexes are an important measure here. So, for example, if we look at the yellow box here, you can see that in this trade area that I talked about how we defined it, or the area around my business, we can see that 18.8% of the households consider themselves lone parent families. And there's other categories, but this is the category that is the most different than Ontario, and I'll explain that in a moment. So 18.8% of the households within my trade area consider them lone parent families. You can see just beneath that is an index value of 112. All you need to think about when you look at that is that's a comparison with the rest of the province. So if that index, let's say that index is 100, that means that this variable or this measure for my trade area is exactly the same as the province. So if in this case, if family status total lone parent families was 18.8 for Ontario, index would be 100. But because the index is 112, the way to look at this is this category of family within my trade area index is 12% higher than the provincial average. So this is what puts these values into context. So how does it compare with the province? And so we're able to say in this example that my families in my trade area are more likely to be total lone parent families than the province. And in fact, 12% more likely to be lone parent families. So this measure is repeated throughout the report. You'll get for your trade area, you'll get the variables value. So for example, 52.5% of the families within this trade area consider themselves married or common law. So you get an indication of what that is, but you also get an indication based on that index of 93 that that's actually lower than the provincial average, about 7% lower than the provincial average. So again, it's putting that number into context when compared to the rest of the province. And you'll see this concept again and again as you're looking through your reports. The value for a variable, in this case, we looked at family status and marital status, and then how that compares through an index with the province. So now each one of these sections, I'm going to touch briefly on how to use these for healthcare providers and services like yourself. Demographics are going to be really important. So things like, are there a lot of families in my trade areas? If so, how old do the children tend to be? So you'll look at percentages of children that are between certain ages. Maybe I should think about expanding my pediatric services based on some of these higher percentages of children, or the marital status might change your way of thinking about how you service households and population within your trade area. If it skews a bit older, as is the general trend across the country, you might want to focus more on geriatric services or things that support a senior population. And then, of course, income levels is always an important one. What kind of money do people have in order to spend on services like the ones that we're offering? So there's a lot here just in demographics to go through. I'd encourage you when you get your reports to really key in onto these, because demographics are such an important characteristics when it comes to healthcare, obviously. Another section that is interesting is looking at shopping and services within your trade area. So you're going to get a lot of where people are shopping in terms of retail locations. In this case, we're going to look at the top drugstores within the trade area for a business, and then again, how that compares to Ontario. So on the left-hand side here, you're going to see where people within my trade area tend to shop for drugstores, and this is looking in the past month. So in the past month, you can see that within this trade area, 66.1% of the population shopped at Shoppers Drug Mart. And this doesn't get into prescriptions versus front store. These are really just people that shop there. We also have grocery stores. So in this case, we do know that when it comes to drugstore patronage, 41.6% would go to a big box drugstore, likely, that would have that pharmacy inside it. And then the bottom here, well, the grocery store would be food grocery stores, and then the bottom would be those big boxes, like, for example, a Costco or something like that, warehouse stores. So you can see that this is ranked by percentage of the population within my trade area that went to these different types of drugstores over the past month. And again, those index values show you how that compares to the provincial average. On the right-hand side, we start to look at a different way of ranking these folks. So we're starting now to look at how would you rank them in terms of their difference to the rest of the province. So the way to interpret this is 10% of the households went to a Guardian or an IDA within my trade area. But if you look at that index value, they're almost twice as likely to go to a Guardian or an IDA when compared to the provincial average. So this is really what makes households within my trade area unique when compared to the rest of the province. So a different way of ranking them. It's not ranked on the percentage of people that went there, but ranked on how different they are to the provincial average. So two ways of looking at drugstores within that trade area. So when you start looking at some of this type of data, you can see, if you are needing to relocate or look at other sites, how do you want to look at where people are getting perhaps prescriptions filled to say, okay, how do I make it convenient for people within my trade area? And I think really important here are partnerships. How do you look at other retailers within my trade area that people like to go to? How can I partner with them to give support households within my trade area with a more holistic support network when it comes to healthcare? So I think that's a really important one to look at when you're looking at this shopping and services behavior within your trade area. Another section of the report that's interesting is looking at some of the ways in which people consume media. So this is looking at things like internet behaviors, mobile phone behaviors, and media highlights, and those tendencies for households and population, again, within your trade area. So what I'm highlighting here is television viewership. So now we're looking at how do people, or what are the levels in which people consume television or watch television within my trade area, and how does that compare to the province? So we can see here, I'm just going to look at that heavy viewership level, and these are people who consider themselves heavy TV watchers. 19.72% of the population within my trade area, almost 20% of the population, considers themselves heavy TV watchers. If you look at this base for percentage value, that's the province. So you can say for Ontario, 15.81% of the population considers themselves heavy TV viewers. So when you look at those two percentages, what we're saying is that our index value, the people within our trade area index 25% higher for considering themselves a heavy TV watcher. So again, we're getting that almost 20%, which is interesting. That's the number of people who are heavy TV watchers in our trade area. But we're also seeing that that's actually 25% higher than the provincial average. Again, what makes my trade area unique when looking at the rest of the province? This is just the television section. We also have mobile phone and internet behaviors as well. You can see here that we have top program types. So in this trade area, curling happens to be very popular with households and the population within this area. So again, something to consider when you're thinking about how to best connect with households or the population within your immediate trade area. So for this one, the ways in which you might want to look use this data, you can see that a large number of the population or households listen to podcasts. That maybe I should consider advertising there or reaching my immediate households through that channel. You might see that people look at health-related content on the internet. That is a variable that you'll see. That could give you the ammunition you need to really double down on your online presence and really connecting with folks there. And you can also see things like people still like to receive flyers in the mail in my trade area. So a lot of people are kind of getting away from connecting with folks in that way. But often what is the case is people still like getting flyers in the mail. So maybe that's something I should consider using more moving forward to attract people to my clinic or my place of business. The next section of the report looks at social media in detail. So you're gonna find things in here around Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or X, I guess it's now called, Facebook, Snapchat. So a number of these social media platforms. In this case, we're just looking at Instagram. So in this section of your report, you'll be able to see how many people within your trade, or the percentage of people within your trade area that are currently using Instagram. In this case, it's 47.2%. And you'll see that index value again indicates that people within my trade area are actually 12% higher than the provincial average for using this social media platform. So it's a popular media platform for people within my trade area. And then for each of the social media channels, you'll be able to see some of those top daily activities that they're partaking in, those users. In this case, you can see I've highlighted watch live videos. So 5% of the population within my trade area watch live videos on Instagram, and that's higher than the provincial average, which is 3.5. So you can start to get an indication not only of what social media channels the population is using, but then how they're interacting with those different channels in order for you to really tailor and customize the way in which you reach out to these different folks within your trade area that you're trying to connect with. So for example, maybe you see the Snapchat is very popular. Usually that indicates a younger population within your trade area. Maybe that's something you should really double down on. Facebook, a lot of people think it's, usage is dwindling, but what you'll see as you start working with this data is it's still extremely popular. So that's definitely something that you'll want to keep in mind. But you can start tying these data sets in together. You'll see, for example, some of the demographic information suggests that maybe the imagery that you post on Facebook should be of families, because there's a larger percentages of families within my trade area. So those are the kinds of ways in which you can use this data, really tailoring the information based on demographics or values or behaviors, and then figuring out what channel to connect with them on in this example, potentially Facebook. As I said, we also have X, formerly Twitter, on there. We can see that people like to watch live videos, so let's maybe post more videos through that channel. And then you might find that people are very comfortable sharing personal information through social media. So maybe you should reach out to collect email addresses through social media in order to really bolster the number of people who subscribe to your mailing list or your newsletter or whatever that happens to be. Another section of the report that will be interesting for folks on the call here is household spend. So we have the annual amount on average that households spend. We call that consumption in total. And you can see that in the top left here, $72,032. That's how much on average households spend within a given year. The index is 77, so that's quite a bit lower than the provincial average. Also lower is the average household income of households within my trade area, which on average in this trade area, on average, which is 97,754, again, quite a bit lower than the provincial average. So you get those two high level sort of categories of dollars, but then below you also get a sense as to how much people are spending within major areas of consumerism. So one of them happens to be healthcare, which aligns very well to folks here. You can see that on average, households within my trade area spend almost $6,000 per year on healthcare, which is just slightly below the provincial average, but pretty close to at par with what people are spending across the province. But in this trade area's case, it accounts for 7.7% of the total expenditure. So that is a higher percentage of people's overall spending within this trade area by about 15% more than the provincial average. So people on average tend to spend a little bit more on healthcare in this trade area than the province on average. So that's a pretty good indicator of the sort of potential for healthcare services within your trade area. You also can drill down a little bit into some of these categories. We have categories around prescription medications and pharmaceutical products, non-prescription, healthcare practitioners, as well as makeup, skincare, and fragrance products. These bar charts show the average annual spend per household compared to the provincial average. So the dark bar is our trade area that our business is in. So you can see that across the board, it's a bit lower than your benchmark, which is the rest of Ontario. You could see, for example, makeup, skincare, and fragrance products quite a bit lower than what we're seeing on average for the rest of the province. So again, these are different categories. You're going to see when you get your reports, they're going to be obviously specific to your trade area. So these are going to look a lot different. But, you might find that people in your trade area love to spend a lot of money on makeup, skincare, and fragrance. So maybe that's something you should think more about when offering products and services aligned to the needs of your trade area. Or maybe it's, non-prescription medications. Is this a section of my clinic that I should probably think more about? So just a few examples of how you might want to use this information. I have a few more minutes here. I have two more categories of the report that I'll talk through. This one is called psychographics. It's really a fancy way of saying what do people value within my trade area. So what we can see here, this is a very interesting data set that allows you to maybe subtly tweak the messaging or the imaging you use in order to really connect with households in your trade area. So in this example, you can see that the top value that people believe in my trade area is global consciousness. So what does this mean? You can see below here a little description of the top three. So for global consciousness, these are people that really consider themselves a citizen of the world, first and foremost, more so than a citizen of their community or even country. So really, it's when you're talking to these people and engaging with them, you might want to have more of that global viewpoint when you're connecting with them. So how do your services or how do they fit into more of a global view of things? So you might want to shy away from that more local approach and tap into this value that people within your trade area have. And even in this also section of the report also looks at those indexes those values that are very low. So very important as well. So you can see in this trade area, attraction to nature is something that, interestingly enough, people in this trade area don't necessarily believe in quite as strongly as the rest of the province. So maybe that's something you want to downplay a little when posting on social media. Maybe you don't show that family playing frisbee in the park. Maybe you show them shopping downtown, or those are the types of small tweaks that may make a small difference in terms of engaging with them. But if you start applying a lot of this data in little ways, it does add up, and you're able to really start connecting with more people within your trade area. So a couple different ways in which you can use this information. Another value is focus towards health. So maybe that's something that indexes high in your trade area. How do you really work further to promote that healthy and active lifestyle? Maybe people don't believe in or index low for xenophobia. Okay, well, let's look at maybe some alternative forms of treatment that are popular in other areas of the world. So again, now we're combining a couple of those social values, xenophobia, as well as that global viewpoint to really connect with folks in your immediate trade area. And then finally, there's a value here for enthusiasm for technology. Well, these people are really tech savvy and love gadgets. So maybe you want to connect with them through your e-commerce solution, or maybe you should apply more of your resources to your app or your online presence to really connect with more people there. And the last section that I want to talk about, in the last section of your report, starts to leverage our segmentation system at Environics Analytics. It's called Prism. And this is really our flagship product of ours that categorizes all of households within Canada, or all the postal codes within Canada, into one of 67 different, what we call segments. So these are really segments where everybody that lives within these segments are generally the same. So in terms of level of affluence, behaviors, outlook on life, education, diversity, all these different measures that we look at and run our statistical models against to arrive at one of these 67 different segments for every residential postal code across the country. And this is really based on the idea that birds of a feather flock together. So generally, either you move into an area of people that tend to look like you, or once you're there, you start taking on the lifestyle and the behaviors and the attitudes of people you live around. So very interesting data set that just makes it easier for people to work with the reams of data that we have available to them. So on the right here, you can see that each one of these dots represent a different segment, or that is assigned to a postal code, a residential postal code, in this case in Victoria, BC, but it could obviously be around your store as well. So when we look at Prism here, and this is what you're going to get in your report, you're going to see the top 5 segments for your trade area. So for example, in this case, the top segment you see here is called social networkers. And you can see that they account for almost 36% of the households within your trade area fall in this general category. So you'll see a big write-up here that describes who these people tend to be. It's not going to be perfect, of course. We don't claim to say that everybody within each postal code aligns perfectly. But in general, when looking at people within your trade area, you're going to probably see that they align to some of these segments. So very interesting way in which to reinforce, probably things you already know about the type of folks that live in your area, but you also may learn more about people that maybe aren't quite as visible. So maybe there's a seniors population that you don't see quite as much around the neighborhood, that you didn't realize was as prevalent, that you really want to tap into because they do have either a need for your services or they are spending money on services that you provide. And here's a few examples in which you could use this data. For example, if there were a lot of social networkers, they tend to be young, urban, they're single, they're out there, really experiencing the city. How do you optimize for these folks, your services? How do you really tap into perhaps this wellness plan or things like that. And as I mentioned, you may get some more senior households that aren't quite as visible. For example, there's a segment called On Their Own Again. These are often retirees who are empty nesters now, maybe don't have as much money to spend, but are still really need services that you provide. How can you better support them now, armed with this knowledge of their presence in your immediate market? And then savvy seniors might be another type of senior that live in your area that could be prevalent. They do have quite a bit of money, so maybe they want more of a upscale service than some other groups. So again, just some very simple ways in which you could use this data. And as I mentioned, Ramona is going to go into a lot more details on how you could use some of that data. So I took up a bit more of my time than I was supposed to, but I am going to turn it over to her to
Thanks, Greg.
get into more of the
Um,
details.
just a question, if anybody, and thank you for that information. Does anybody at this point have any questions about what it is that Greg has provided you with right now? Because I know it's overwhelming. So each of you will be receiving a copy of your own personalized market research report that you can go through and look at. And we're going to be sending out the links by the beginning of next week to you so that you can access that report. And if you have any questions when you get your own report, you can reach out to your portfolio managers, and then we'll make sure that we can sort of get the answers that you need for that report. One of the things I will mention, and someone had mentioned it in an earlier session, that, when Greg was talking about social media and different types of networks and all that, Blue Sky is still like Blue Sky, and some of the relatively new platforms that are coming out are not included in this right now. So those of you that are looking at maybe transitioning over, please know that this is based on traditional, what we have data for, that is defensible, that we have enough that we can actually make some analysis of. Some of these new platforms are still relatively in their infancy. And so therefore, we're still in exploratory data type stuff. So, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you in the healthcare sector can look at what it is that you're doing as a business owner. And the very first thing that I kind of talk about is the fact that as a small business right now, you don't have endless amounts of money to do everything. So, some of the things that Greg talked about today, where TV viewer was really high, not all of you are going to have the funds available to be taking out TV ads because the market research report said that was really important, right? So, really, what I want you to think as small business owners, the reason that we're doing this 15-minute walkability and drivability is because one of the key things is that you each have a brick and mortar location, a retail location, that your goal is to get as many people through the door as you possibly can to your physical location. And what happens sometimes is that some of my business owners, and I've been doing this for 30 years, some of my business owners are so focused on the fact that, oh my God, Ramona, I have a website, so therefore I'm selling to everybody in the whole wide world. You are not. You're trying to get as many people as you can through your doors. And so when we're talking about the health related industry, and that's why I kind of grouped you guys all together, two things that we have to look at, or actually a couple of things, but two key things. One of them we look at, are the services and products that you are providing, are they for preventative? Preventing someone from having an injury, preventing something from happening, so that you're forward thinking that people are doing things to get themselves into shape, get healthy, so that you can provide those types of things. The second group that we look at are what we call curative. Those are things where someone's had an injury and they do need some specialized services. Okay. The reason that those two are really important is the fact that it comes down to the type of business that you own as well. Some of you, if you are massage therapists or chiropractors or in any of the regulated industries, okay, as a regulated practitioner, you are bound by the association that you've been given your designation through. So some of the marketing, some of the promises, some of the things that you can do are limited. And so we want to make sure that you stay within the bounds of what you can do by your association and affiliation, and look at where you might be able to add on complementary products to what it is that you're doing. Okay. And in the case where you are a regulated industry, part of your regulation also has to do with price. So that you are sort of given you can only charge this much for dental, you can only charge this much for a massage. Okay. And so we try to figure out, as a business owner, how do you expand your business? So one of the interesting things that came up in Greg's slides, so for those of you that are providing service, okay, one of the things, the average spend was about $460, $480, just under $500. And the really interesting thing is, and for those of you that know, for your clients that have benefits packages, most of the benefits packages for particular services tap out at $500. Okay, so your benefits package will cover 500 of chiro, 500 of physio, and people generally tend to tap out after that point, because then it's no longer the part of their benefits package, it's part of what they have to pay out of pocket. And so this is another interesting way when you're looking at marketing your services. Do you have the ability to direct bill? What's the process? How easy have you made it for someone? And how have you staggered someone's preventative journey versus their curative journey based on how it is that they might be making payments to you? Okay. Now, that's really, really important if you're a service industry. If you are someone who is providing products, okay, so if you're a pharmacy, or if your clinic has like a little store in there, are you meeting the needs by what's in that store to the group that you are looking after? Okay. And how can you, one of the things that Greg mentioned was, how can you partner with other businesses in your community to sort of work together? Okay. This is important. So, as Greg said, in this example that we gave, the average age of of the base in your area was 51 years old. Okay. We generally know that we are in the healthcare services area. We generally know where people are in their life cycle and what their needs are based on their ages. Okay, so if you have a younger group, and so with 51 being the median, that means that 50% are under 51, 50% are over 51, very broadly. Okay, but when we're dealing with youth or young people, we're generally looking at kids who are athletes doing athletic things. Like, that's the kind of group that we're looking at when we're providing healthcare services on top of the regular things that would happen to this group. But we basically then look at, how do I get out to a market? How do I get people to know about the fact that I do work with kids and I'm good with working with kids, or I work with athletes? So part of this comes down to even the way that you could advertise. So if your services that you provide or the products that you sell are geared to a younger market, maybe you could sponsor a sports team. Get your name on the back of their little shirts and they're running around town doing all of your stuff. Okay. It could be that you support a local organization, that the hockey, that you have your name on the border of the rink, right? So that every time someone comes to see a game, they see your name there. Okay. These are relatively low cost, community based ways for you to advertise versus spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars going out into the Facebook stratosphere to try to hope that you hit somebody with the demographics that you've chosen. Okay. When we're trying to build community, we do things in the community that benefit the community and in the end will benefit us as business owners. So look at ways that you can get your name out in the community and be seen as being part of that community. One of the other things that Greg mentioned was the fact that in this trade area, they identified the fact that people love live videos. People people buy not what you do, okay? They buy why you do it. Okay. And so there may be a number of people in your community that are massage therapists or chiropractors. And I'm focusing on the service stuff right now. Okay. But what makes you unique? And what can you provide to people? So in those videos, I really do say, please don't hire a video company to make that professional so that everything looks like 100%. Most of the stuff that we take in, and if you look at your own usage of social media, okay, how social media got started was watching people dancing on TikTok and trying to replicate what they were doing, or on Facebook watching cats and dogs do really weird stuff, and people would share that. Okay, be genuine, do something about what you are doing, okay, and talk about it. So in the healthcare field, you may want to do a video on how someone can prevent an injury. How do they sit? How do they stand? What types of shoes should they be wearing? Okay, that informational stuff that you put out as part of your business, now you have provided me with information. And when I need you for the preventative or curative, I will remember you because you gave me information or insights when there was no sale attached to it. Generally, when small businesses use their social media, they're promoting a sale or some product or something that they're doing. That's not what generates business. What generates business is you giving me something where there isn't something tied to it, that I need to buy it, that I need to purchase it. Then you become someone I want in my circle and I remember. Okay. And I've said this to people, like, if you have your business cards, on the back of your business card, have a list of things that people can do preventative, drink water, drink 8 glasses of water, whatever it is that's a simple truth to be part of that. Okay. The other thing when we talked about partnerships, oh my God. All right. So let's look at some of the health concerns of people that you might deal with and how you can establish really great partnerships. Okay. So if you're a physio and the person that you're dealing with is a diabetic who is having leg pain because of their diabetes, oh my God, your immediate partner should be anybody that deals in orthotics and any type of food place that deals in diabetic friendly meals. You want to become the person that goes, oh my God, I got a guy for you. Here is another business that I recommend because I know the person, I like what they do. And if you need this type of service, just let them know that, Ramona sent you. And that works reciprocally. Okay. Now, the one thing about Canadians, we love reciprocity. For some reason, if someone does something nice for us, we have this innate need to have to repay the favor. And so this is how you build up these partnerships, okay? You say, hey, you've got something that I want. Now, you could carry their products in your store. You could refer and have your cards in their location. But let's go with the idea of someone having diabetes or being a diabetic. Okay. They need to be worried about their health. They need to be worried about their footwear. They need to be worried about what they're eating, how they're eating it, how they're recording it. And that's on the preventative side. And then when we get into the curative side, then they don't have options. But now we're looking at what could you have in your location that would help out this group of people. Okay. One of the things that I'm finding right now personally, okay, I'm over the age of 51. Okay. I find that I'm having a very difficult time finding compression socks. Okay. I know I need to wear them. I can't find them anywhere. And when I go to the traditional places, they only carry certain sizes. So again, if you can carry something that's unique that nobody else has, that you can't find at Shoppers Drug Mart, that all of a sudden you're going, hey, if you need something that, has a wider, a thigh, whatever else it is, this becomes really important because now you've set yourself up as being the subject matter expert and being the person that has something that nobody else has. And so look at the group of people that you have in your community. All of these things will play into this as part of your advertising and promotion. Okay, so please do not think that you need to spend lots of money doing this. Okay, because these are very, very quick, simple things that you can do. Okay, when you are doing your social media and all of that, please make it conversational. Pretend that you are talking to one person and have that conversation. Show that general passion about what you're doing. And I get this all the time from healthcare providers, okay, especially if you're in a regulated industry. you come across sometimes as being so restrictive in the way that you do it because your field requires you to be restrictive. That doesn't mean that you can be fun. Okay, that doesn't mean that you can't be fun, as what I'm saying. Like, let your personality come out in what you're doing. And this is especially true if you're dealing in the curative. Okay. If you are dealing with someone who has suffered an injury and needs to be part of what it is that you're doing, because of that, they are already dealing with a lot of anxiety. They are dealing with a lot of self-doubt. They are scared. They don't know what their outcome is going to be. And so being the person that has that conversation with them, that is very understanding of what they're doing, okay? And I can say this, my daughter, who is 28 years old, has had 5 hip surgeries, just had back surgery, okay? And the way that people treated us during the thing, I switched physios and all of that 6 times, okay, during her journey because of the fact the way that the people treated her and the way that they spoke to her. And this is really, really important because that's just as important as the Facebook ad that you put out there. So if I leave you with nothing else, come up with the partnerships that make sense for what you're doing within the sphere of what it is that you're doing, regulated or non-regulated. Do you have the partnerships in place to be able to offer and complement and cross refer is also very important. So those are just some of the ways that you can use the data that the environment and Veronix Analytics, I will get this right, the third time's the charm, has provided you, and you can look at it with a fresh light, looking at the people that are also offering services and products in your area. So I'm going to leave with that. And we've got the last kind of 10 minutes, 8 minutes for any questions. Does anyone, and I know we've got a small group here today, but does anybody have any questions based on your business and your products or services that you sell? You can open up the mic or you can throw them in the chat, or you're all going to be a very, very quiet group and Ramona's going to dance for the next 10 minutes. Any questions? Caitlin, you're still on there. You've asked me a couple of things. Caitlin, what's the business? Yes, so my goodness, yes, you can ask for a larger service area. That's something that we have to do differently. So when you get your report, could you reach out to your PMs so that we can just make an ask of Environics Analytics on that? Would be great. Caitlin, what's the business? Okay, send it to me, Caitlin, to Ramona. You get all the emails from me, so we can definitely do that. Either one, my Main Street. Gonna unmic it, like I'm hoping everybody. It's diagnostic, but I can't use that word. And that's, guys, that's another thing. Okay. Thank you, Caitlin. I really do believe. Remember what you are limited by. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you, if you sell products or if you are creating products, if you've created your own creams, your own potions, lotions, whatever, please remember that those items you must give the recipe to Health Canada. They really, you must have that registered through Health Canada. Health Canada also does have a very large number of restrictions on what you can say about a product that you are selling. Okay, so you cannot say that a product heals, cures, like it's very, very restrictive. So please make sure that you are staying within those things related to the healthcare industry as well. Okay, and so to Caitlin's point about, not using the word diagnostic, but please remember that those also are a part of your advertising. So if we do not have anything else, so if you are reading your report and you are stuck on things on marketing, you can reach out to me through my Main Street or through your portfolio manager. Just send a message, okay, and then we will try to respond. Now, the other thing that I'm going to tell you is that we are going to be hosting this recording on our website. Okay. And the other thing that we have on the website right now are some of our My Main Street 1.0 webinars that we did about marketing, about pricing, costing, that you can also view. These are on-demand webinars. And so please take advantage of some of those, but do reach out and we will provide you with as much information as we can. So given that I haven't gotten any other questions and I'm not seeing any other questions coming through the chat or question and answer, I'm going to thank Greg and Nader, who was also on the call today on the webinar. You'll get the website. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. The website will be on the Environics Analytics. It's when I talk too fast. Their website will be on there as well, and you can look at some of their data. Please note that this will be recorded. It will be on the website. We'll give you copies of it. You'll get your market research report by the beginning of next week, and the recordings will be up next week as well, for you to view. And if you feel that your business kind of crosses another, we did this morning. We did restaurants. Today we did the healthcare. Tomorrow we're doing retail, and I'm drawing a blank on my fourth one right now.
Oh God, so am I. Oh, sorry.
Isn't that fun?
I just put these together.
I just went totally blank on what our
Yeah,
fourth one is.
we did healthcare and related services today, as well as restaurants and food service. Tomorrow's personal services,
Ah,
as well as retail.
so personal services as well. So for those of you that might be looking to see what I'm telling the people that might be your partners, you can attend or review these recordings. So I'm going to end this right now, thanking you all for participating and being part of this, thanking EA and Greg and the team. And again, we are here to help you in the best way that we can. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to end the video and webinar for all of us.